And so here we are. We are back with the Social Coast. Hello from the East Coast of Canada. Anita and Tina here once again to share some social media tips and strategies for small businesses who are paddling against the tides, trying to get to shore in a sea of platforms. It's the Social Coast. Welcome, swimmers.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. And we've got quite a crowd today. I invited a few people on Twitter to come and hopefully join us, some people I knew were bloggers. And I didn't invite Jim, but I'm glad to see Jim's here because he does a couple of different types of blogging. So I'm sure he'll have lots of things to offer. So this should be a really good topic because we're going to talk about blogging, the how, the why, the myths, some tips, some strategies for why you might, as a business, want to have a blog and how you should do it. So, and I think, I don't know if you've read all the comments yet, Tina, but we've even got Kara into blogging, and she was the one that always said she wasn't going to blog. She was going to share everybody else's blogs, and she says she's done 4 or 5 since the start of 2016. So we've convinced one person, and that's awesome.
And you know what, Anita, I'm glad that you invited bloggers over specifically, and hopefully we'll have even a few more join us. Wouldn't it be great if we could do a big chunk of our hour today as a discussion, just actually talking about, okay, well, I have a blog, but this is my real question about my real blog going on right now. And just talk about that and get some feedback from the people listening in and see if we can do something really practical to help wherever everybody is at with their blog.
So what I'm going to suggest, because I'm doing it right now, I'm sending out a tweet. I'm clicking on the tweet button over in the top left-hand corner. And to do that now, you either have to type in what you want to say about the blab, or you can copy and paste the topic that's right above the tweet and the post buttons. So I'd invite everybody to do that. If there's a blogger that you think might be sitting around the computer right now who would have something to offer to this discussion, why not tag them in that when you send it out? Or go over to Twitter. We'll excuse you for a minute. Go over to Twitter and say, hey, we're talking about blogging. Come join us, because we would really like to have more people in here. And I invited 6 or 8 different people this morning on Twitter. I only heard from a couple of them. I'm hoping they're coming, but we'd like to have more people. The more the merrier for this. And we know there's lots of great bloggers in Halifax, but there's lots of great bloggers out there everywhere who could be giving us their tips, because I blog almost every week. Tina's starting to blog much more regularly now, but neither one of us is an expert in every aspect of it. And we were just listening into Social Media Examiner, and there's a whole new thing coming with Google for WordPress that really just kind of blew my mind, and I was trying to look at it and I couldn't. So there's all kinds of stuff that other people will have to offer for this.
Exactly.
So go ahead and click the tweet button, or head over to Twitter or text message, or whatever you want to do. Invite somebody that you know that blogs to come over. And it's okay if they're a different kind of blogger. So what we want to first talk about, what is a blog and the different types of blog. Now, I didn't look up the Wikipedia definition for this one, which we sometimes do. But a blog started, oh my goodness, at least 20 years ago now. Yeah. As weblogs, and they really started as a place for people to have an online diary, and they started out as very personal and merged into the business. I had a blog, a personal blog, not a diary, but a personal blog for a hobby, at least 10 years ago, I think, is when I started it. So it's been around for a long time, and it eventually became a business tool where businesses could talk about their products and services and work on customer service issues. So it's no longer a personal diary, although I'm sure there are people that use it that way. If you've ever seen, there's blogs out there that are, dating horror stories. I keep telling Sherry she should start one of those kind of blogs.
Under an anonymous identity? Or?
It would have to be anonymous, but there are some hilarious stories, and her stories, honestly, her stories rival the ones on those horror dating blogs already out there. Oh, I'm being very careful what I say.
Well, the other thing is, if anyone who has dated online could blog day in and out about those stories, because There's always something strange going on.
Absolutely. So a blog is really just a place on the internet. It could be a part of your website, or it could be something totally different where you can go in and write your thoughts and opinions, or tell stories, or do poetry, or have a diary, or whatever you want to write about. But it's a place online where you can do that on a regular basis. And that's a really broad description, but I really think that explains what a blog is. I think to put any more definition on that just makes it too narrow. So it's really, really broad.
And do we want to talk about it's fine if we just get into this later, but do we want to talk about business blogging as something distinct and like a more narrow topic?
Sure. So what do you think the distinction is?
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of sort of key reasons that people start up a business blog. There are the marketing functions of that, right? So when you're creating your own content, you're kind of educating your target market segments about what you do, and you're building your brand story, and you're doing that in a particular voice for your brand. In some cases, for some brands, it's very conversational, and it may even be very similar to the voice of that business owner if it's a small business. But with a brand, you might be kind of constructing that voice, thinking about how does my business talk to people, and blogging almost as a fiction writer writes a character, right? So you're blogging in a particular voice for your brand. And so you're creating awareness, you're telling your story, and you're educating your market segments. And then social media, of course, is the component that is the outreach for that. Now, I think it's distinct from a personal blog because it has parameters in place. You will always have a business blog linked somehow to your business goals. And in lots of cases, those are going to be marketing goals, but in some cases, they may be branding goals. You know, you're just kind of talking about your business, not to specifically sell something sometimes, but you're creating an awareness of who you are, what you do. You're creating a sense of trustworthiness, a sense of credibility, and all those things that are essential first steps before someone becomes a customer, and then later on, hopefully a loyal customer. So I think blogging is just fundamental to any marketing activity, especially nowadays where everybody is online all the time. And I think that's how it's separate, that it just has a separate purpose with different parameters, and it's maybe done in a different voice that could still be conversational, but it's chosen. It's constructed in a certain way. You've thought about it. You're writing in the voice of your brand.
Yeah, and I think so business blogging is what we want to focus on today. There are certainly all kinds of different types of blogging. So you can blog for personal reasons, which would be the horror dating stories blog, or renegade mothers. Renegade mothering is one of my favorites. She's always telling hilarious stories about how she's not the typical mother.
I've never met the typical mother, Anita.
Well, that's true. So there are personal blogs, there are lifestyle blogs. So Erin Trafford, a local blogger, Pauline O'Day, local blogger, they have lifestyle blogs, but even within their type of blog, they're very different. So Erin Trafford is blogging about do-it-yourself home decor, renovations. They're renovating their house from the top down or from the bottom up, whichever way you want to look at it, and ripping everything apart and finding things on the street and turning them into something beautiful. And she's, working with designers and paint companies and home decor retailers. And then Colleen O'Day has a lifestyle blog as well. Curtains Are Open is hers, and she's talking about being a single mom, being a working mom. She works with certain brands as well, and sometimes it's sponsored posts about a car or a spa or a salon. So, but hers is focused on being a mom, and mostly being a single mom in her case. So both lifestyle blogs, but very different topic focuses.
Yeah.
We've got Jim. Jim, do you consider yourself a lifestyle blogger? I guess I'd have to put you into that big, huge category, probably. Lifestyle blogger versus a business blogger, because it's not a business that is blogging, but you are a business. I don't know. So that's a good question for Jim. But Jim blogs about hiking, different trails, using technology for hiking, tenting, yurting, tenting in a yurt, and all that kind of fun outdoorsy stuff. So again, very different topics, all within the same genre.
And
So
you've just
whatever it is you want to talk about, there's probably somebody out there talking about it, first of all, but there's no reason why you can't.
right. And you've just hit on the first most important thing about a blog, and that is that, you know, in the way that it's evolved, we used to, and I had those hobby blogs where I would kind of have an online diary of sorts. But nowadays, blogging's about your topic. Pick your topic, pick your audience, have a niche, right? So that's the thing that allows you to kind of break through all the noise online, where you're speaking to a particular group of people about a particular topic. And, you know, what'll motivate you to keep going is definitely pick something you're very, very interested in, passionate about, motivated to talk about. But that's the first key thing, to really zero in on what is your blog about? Who's your reader? So you kind of visualize, who's my reader? What am I talking to them about in every blog? And, you know, what are all the topics around that?
Do you think that's harder for a big business to think about it? Because do you really, you know, if you think about, I don't know, Ford, let's just say Ford, because I think they have a blog.
Okay.
Do you think it's hard for somebody at Ford to really have passion for writing those blogs? I don't know.
Well, so I do some blogging for a client of mine, and it's not you know, like a showy, sexy business at all, right? So it's like, how do we talk about this in a way that I care about as the writer, that people are going to relate to and care about? And it comes down to figuring out what I started to talk about here. So what's that story that people care about? You know, it's all about relating to people. And if you're a business and you have clients, like, what do they care about that's related to your business? I think Ford could do an amazing blog series just on adventuring, or like, you know, they pick certain models they want to promote, like life in the family van. All kinds of stuff could be really, really interesting from a story perspective in terms of business blogging. And the thing with blogging is, it's not about buy our stuff right now. You know, that's what your ads are for. It's that reminder, like, here we are, we're having a sale. But your blog is about, how do you relate to us? How do we understand you? And like, all the things you care about, and like all the pains of traveling in a van with your kids for several hours and all that stuff. That's the really interesting, like, engaging, emotional story stuff that people want to read about. And the more real and authentic that it is, and less contrived and sort of constructed that it is in terms of writing the blog, the more engaging it is, the more that people just want to follow the story.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too about Colleen again, and one of the blog series that she does is the Kia Working Mom. So she blogs on her blog for Kia,
Yes.
for the local Kia dealership, not Kia National yet. Right. But she writes a blog, I think, once a month about a working mom and just their life and how they are a working mom and how they, I don't know if they get a car for the month, or I don't know how it works exactly, but I've read a few of them. So she's doing the blogging for Kia, and it's on her blog. So that's a totally different arena again, but she's bringing the passion because she's talking about the moms, and they're obviously trying to target the working moms.
Exactly. So that's more of an advocate affiliate kind of relationship of some
sort.
Well,
it is a sponsored relationship. I mean, she is getting paid somehow to write these blogs. I don't know what the details of the relationship are, but nonetheless, it's a blog that it's a guest blog that she's writing for this brand, and I like that relationship because it's giving her voice to it, and she is the demographic. It's not just some sales guy in the dealership saying, here's why a working mom should have a Kia. It's a working mom who has a Kia who's helping to promote the brand.
100%. And what a great strategy, because you're reaching, she's already built up her whole community of that target market. So they're being really smart and partnering with a mom like that who's been a really active and successful blogger. Like that, I love that too. And the other thing that a company like Ford could do is just do a whole series of different moms who are driving their kids around in a Kia, you know, and just, it could be really fun. Like it could be a contest of sorts, or it could just be a different feature every month or every week, where you're reaching different segments in your market too, or just telling different stories from the same market segment. It's the story that's interesting. It's the story that's fun that we relate to. And you're like, as a mom, you're like, oh God, I remember going like, stop it. You're going to make me crash. You're so loud. You know, all of those stories when you see someone else tell the same story of the kids bickering in the back seat and like, oh, well, thank goodness we have this safety feature just in case I need it, you know, as you're like hanging on by your fingernails. But yeah, no, I love that. And I think that the story's the thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think we've outlined what a blog is and the different kinds of blogs. I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of other types of blogs out there. You can have video blogs, you can have photo blogs, you could have, well, there's live blogging that a lot of the news outlets are using now. So they'll put up a little bit of a story to introduce what's breaking news, and then they add things down below as things happen, and you can scroll through and see almost a live chronology of what's been happening for this breaking news story. So there's all kinds of different ways to use blogging. What are some of the reasons that a business, a small business, because we're focused on small businesses, so what are some of the reasons that a small business would want to start a blog? What's your biggest thing? My biggest thing is SEO.
Yeah, and SEO is very important, and I eventually get to the SEO, but my whole background is storytelling. So I'm really into tell the story of your business and let people know you. Take off that veneer and be more vulnerable as a living, breathing business. You have inner workings in your business. You have like interesting things that go on, and it's really important to have your own voice as your business and to tell whatever aspects of your business story you've decided that you want to tell. And you have to kind of own the real estate. That's another big thing for me. And especially with very big weekly changes on platforms like Facebook, where we could actually set up a whole business on Facebook now. We could blog in the notes. We could do live video, which we just found out in the last hour is definitely without question getting promoted the most now in the newsfeed algorithm. We could promote through advertising with our Facebook pages and build our audience that way. But we could also have some kind of glitch or violation that takes our page down at any moment, right? Anything could happen. So you have to own the real estate. You have to have your own website, and you have to have your story living there. So while I think all of those features on Facebook are valuable, they should be part of your strategy and part of your plan, I think that you need your story, the main story, the meat of it, to live on your own website. And to always, not only for inbound marketing, where you're driving people back to your website for whatever reason, but your story should live there. That's your house. You built a house online. That's your home. So your story needs to live right there. And then
you're using the term the story of your business. I've got an echo. Just explain that a little bit more, because I hear that a lot. What is the story of my business? I mean, my business blog is all about DIY social media tips, tutorials, how to think about it, ways to use it. Is that the story of my business, or am I missing something here?
That is, well, when I read your blog and when I see the social media that goes out from your blog, supporting those topics, I see that as the story of your blog. You're a coach, you're a trainer, you're a professional, you're someone up to date on the knowledge, and that's your blog, that's your brand story for that part of your market anyway. I know that you're also a consultant and an account manager and all that stuff in the background. But for your blog, that's, and my blog functions much the same way, if not sort of exactly the same way. That is your blog story. That's the whole purpose of your blog. That's your target market that you have chosen for your blog topics. That's the story, right? We're not looking for like a story that's, coming of age or milestones in your life. It's different than the human story. It's like, what is my business all about? And how can I help my ideal customer? Or in the case of our blogs, like this market segment, how can I help them just for free, just on my blog as part of what my business does? And in doing that, also demonstrate my knowledge and skills, demonstrate how I teach and train, and that sort of thing. So all of those are components of the story that you put out about your brand. And that's, it's not really anything beyond that, but it could evolve. Like, that's the beauty of it. You could decide, okay, I now want to be a keynote speaker. So I'm going to continue to blog, but my blog story, the story of my blog content is going to change a little bit. I'm now going to focus on topics that are of interest, of more corporate interest, or maybe of interest to this certain market that I want to target as a potential speaker. So then your story shifts a little bit with what your goals are. So it's kind of like the sum total of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And the how is really important.
I think it's really important that people understand that, because we hear storytelling and we hear the word story used so much. It's one of those words I'm almost sick of and want to boot from the social media language already. But I think people hear that and they don't necessarily understand, well, what is the story of my business? Is it how I got into business? Well, I can only talk about that so many times. So I think it's really important that people understand it's nothing more than what you just described. It is what your purpose is on your blog. So yeah, that's why I asked the question. I wanted to make that perfectly clear in case anybody's sitting listening going, well, I don't have a story. I just tell people blah, blah, blah. That is your story.
Exactly. But the other big part of it is the how. Like, nobody wants to sit. All right, so imagine you're going to the theater, right? You're going to watch a movie. Nobody wants to sit through an hour and a half of trailers, no matter how good they are. So it's not about advertising and advertising speak and a marketing voice. It really is finding a different way to talk about the topics that are of interest to your target market. So that is a really big element of it too, that how, and that there are many, many different types of content in addition to writing, right? So video or even audio. There's so many different ways that you can approach it.
Okay, so that's a great point to transition over to Hannah's question here, because you talked about storytelling being the most important thing for you. For me, when I talk to businesses who are starting up, oftentimes the most important thing for them is to be found. They just need to be found. And their websites may not be built to the best standards, or they aren't making use of all the stuff in the background that they could be. So blogging can be a huge help to getting them found in Google, which brings them more clients, which does all of the wonderful things that being found on Google does. So for me, SEO is right up there with storytelling. the simplest thing is that having a blog and putting fresh content on your blog regularly that's on your website, Google loves to see fresh, regular content. If your website has not been updated with new content in 3 years, Google doesn't want to send people there because it's the same content they sent people there for 3 years ago. So people want to see current content, and a blog is the easiest way to do that. You can certainly put up pages, new pages on your website and update the content on your pages, and you should. But a blog is a much easier way to have ongoing, fresh content that Google will love. And it's so easy with all the plugins that we have now, especially in WordPress, to track what you're doing for your SEO and to make sure that you're putting in keywords that work, and that you're putting your keywords then in all of the right places throughout your blog so that you're more likely to be found in Google for that keyword. So SEO is huge with blogging. The one thing that you need to, two things that you need to realize if you're using your blog for SEO. One is that you cannot keyword stuff. You cannot say, I am a Halifax social media consultant. If you're looking for Halifax social media, please contact the Halifax social media consultancy of Twerp Communications, where we will help you with your Halifax social media. So that's called keyword stuffing. And you need to write for your audience, and your audience would look at that and say, that sounds funny. That doesn't even make sense. So why, if that's the case, why would they want to contact you? So yeah, it might actually help you be found in Google, but once you're found and your audience looks at how you've written that, are they really going to want to hire you? And if they are your SEO consultant, are you going to want to hire them to help you with, make your blog look like that? So that's a big thing. You want to use your keywords efficiently and appropriately. So if your keyword for this page is Halifax social media, which is a keyword that I use a lot, every time you use social media, you can't put Halifax in front of it. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't read properly. And then you will eventually get to a point where Google will say, yeah, you're just stuffing and this is not good. And then you start to get penalized for that stuff. So use them appropriately. That was one thing. And the second thing I wanted to say about the keywords is that you want to use keywords in the way that people will actually be typing them into Google. So if you are a Halifax social media consultant, and that's the keyword you're working on today, you don't want to say, consultancy for social media in Halifax, because that's probably not what people are going to type in. If people are looking for social media help, they're going to type in social media training, social media consultant, social media whatever. That's the terminology you need to use. So be very careful that you're not using the terminology you want to use, but you're using the terminology throughout your website and throughout your blog that your ideal client would use if they were trying to find you. And it doesn't always match. It's not always the same thing. I've told the story many times that when I started this business, I considered myself to be a community manager. So my website called me a community manager. Everything said community manager. And then I had a few people say to me they thought I was working in recreation programs for the city of Halifax. So that made me think, okay, I'm not connecting, the terminology I'm using isn't connecting with my audience. So it's very important that you use what your audience would be looking for. Those are my 2 points about SEO. But having the blog gives you lots of opportunity to get into or use a lot of keywords in different places. So are we waiting for somebody to come in, or? I'm not sure.
It's kind of an interesting conversation going on the side here.
So, okay, so I see the question, does SEO really do anything? Is that the conversation?
That's the first conversation. So we've got Shane. Shane, thanks for joining us. Hi,
Hi,
Shane.
Shane.
We're just going to take one quick question here, Shane, and then we'll get to yours. So eBoy asked us, does SEO really do anything? And I think he was making the statement that for most businesses without a large budget spending limited resources on AdWords will give better results than blogging, I'm assuming. Is that what you meant?
I completely disagree if that's what he meant. Completely disagree. I have spent no money on AdWords, and I continually get referrals through Google. I ask people when they have come to me and I don't know them from other ways, I ask them, so how did you come to hire me? And they, more often than anything else now, they tell me, I found you on Google. So I know that the SEO is working. It does work. And I do not buy AdWords because, quite honestly, I think that most of the companies that are out there selling you Google AdWords packages are wasting your money. They're selling you packages. They might get you shown for certain keywords, but those keywords don't necessarily help you. So blogging, honestly, blogging and understanding where all the keywords and keyword phrases and metadata goes in the background of your blog, that's how it worked. And the last thing I'll say about it is that it worked for me within 1 week of making changes on my blog. 1 week, I went from the bottom of page 1 and page 2 to the top of page 1 for my keywords. 1 week. So yes, it absolutely can help. All right.
Well, it would be the keywords. Creatives link is asking for what keywords. So they would be the keywords that are relevant to your target audience.
Yeah.
And I'll just put the link in again for the template I posted earlier. So this is a basic blogging inventory for every blog post you put up. And basically, these are all of the things you need to keep an inventory of your blog, but also help you build all in all of those SEO elements. Two of the fields are more advanced, and they're what Anita was just talking about. So if it's beyond you and you feel overwhelmed, don't start with that. Do the simple things like have the proper H1 headings, use alt text for all of your graphics. Make sure that your opening sentences have your keywords in them without stuffing, but make sure that you're using your keywords throughout your copy. Make sure your copy is at least 300 words, because that's like the long form original content that Google is crawling for as a priority, right? So that inventory will help you to get started. And there are a couple more advanced features in there that I've identified. So don't panic if you read it and go, I have no idea what this is about. I just did a spring clean on my website and I'm having to rebuild parts of it. So as I do that, I'm not panicking that it's not perfect. All I'm doing is I'm looking toward how I can increase the effectiveness of my website so that every blog I put up is as effective as possible. Okay. And
all right,
yep.
Shane, what's your question?
So how do you start out, like the website? Do you make it yourself, or do you go through another website, like a website building approach?
I think that depends on what your budget is. I've seen lots of people do it both ways. So I had my website built for me because I had very specific ideals and standards that I wanted for the design and the look of it. If you're not so much into that, you just want to get started with a blog, there's all kinds of templates out there that you can use. So whether you want to use WordPress or whether you want to use Blogger, which is owned by Google, or Medium, or I can't think of what the other big ones are right now. Whichever one you want, there are templates there. And if you're so inclined, if you like to do that kind of figuring out and do it yourself stuff, you can do it. You can set it up yourself. If it's part of a business, the one thing I will say is that it should be on your website, not separate from your website. But if you're just starting up a blog, it's really, if you like to do that kind of stuff, there's no reason why you can't go and try and do it.
Sorry, go ahead, Shane.
We've always done all of our stuff through like other websites. So like a back plate from other websites. So you put it up at like Craigslist or something.
Okay. So someone from Craigslist builds your website. Is that what you mean?
No, like we've always went through another website instead of creating our own.
Okay.
So you blog on Craigslist?
No.
I'm not sure what you mean. That didn't make sense. So I'm not sure what you mean.
We've just always went through other websites instead of making our own.
Making your own blog?
Yes.
So do you mean you're guest blogging on other websites? Like you're writing for other okay. Do you mind me asking what's the topic of your blog?
Chickens, like farming.
Okay.
And is it for a business, a family business?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know about Anita, but I use WordPress.org. And I started out on WordPress.com just to learn. So I wanted to get on a platform that had a bit more support and learn. You said
that backwards.
No, I'm on WordPress.org, but I started out on WordPress.com.
WordPress.com is the one that you own.
The free.
WordPress.org is the WordPress hosted.
Yes.
So I think you said that backwards. You started out on the WordPress hosted one, and now you own?
I started out on WordPress.com, which is the free site where you can just blog and you have limited sort of access to the template. You don't have to be able to code or do any of that stuff. But I moved within a few months to WordPress.org, which is the self-hosted.
Okay,
and
I had it backwards then.
Yeah, that's okay. So the thing that you have to do if you want to do it that way is it's not terribly complicated, but if you're going to start out for free, Shane, you can get a bit of experience figuring out different plugins and how to do a few of the technical things in the background without the whole thing blowing up on you. And then once you decide you have enough confidence and skills to take it to another level, first of all, you can always hire someone to do it for you. Or if you learn the skills, which are not that difficult, you certainly could learn them. All you have to do is make sure you nab your domain name, and I would do that even if you're on .com, right? Get the URL that you want and find a host, right? And then someone who's going to host your site, and then you're kind of the person, or the person you hire is the person responsible for keeping that site updated, maintained, changing it however you want. But you can start out on the .com site, which is free to use and much easier, and just start working with some of the plugins and widgets and reading and figuring it all out. That's how I did it, and I found that was a good way to learn. But there are lots of ways to do it. I've also been on Blogger, and Blogger is super easy to use. The blogspot.com, very easy to use.
I think Medium's really easy to use as well, but I'm not sure. I don't think you can control a whole lot of the way that one looks. I think it's very minimalistic. So if you really just wanted to get something up and running to house all of your old blogs maybe and put them somewhere that you kind of own, Medium might be a really fast way to do that, but I've not used it. I've read a few blogs, but I've not used it myself. So does that help, Shane?
Yes.
Okay. And Shane, if you're building your chicken, are you taking us out to see the chickens?
Yeah, right now he's getting away.
I hear that.
He's getting away. Okay, you have to show us the chickens before you leave.
Oh, cute.
So I don't know who I was talking to the other day, but I told somebody the other day there are chicken farmers on Blab, and they did not believe me. So now I have proof. I can point them to this Blab to see it.
Yeah.
So, Shane, I don't know, maybe it's your mom, but there's another chicken farmer that actually has a show on a regular basis here on Blab where she talks about chicken farming.
Yeah, this is our little pet that we keep on the porch. He's just super cute.
He is very cute.
Yeah, we have the other leghorns and Rhode Islands on they're in their coops, but he just stays on the porch most of the time.
Okay. Well, thanks for stopping in and asking a question, Shane. We're going to let you go and continue our discussion, and hopefully we'll see you again.
Yep. And I'll also pop a link in here for Shane or anyone else that just kind of talks about 7 different types of bloggers. So if you want to blog and you aren't sure exactly what that's going to mean for you. It might help out.
Okay, so yeah, we kind of got off our agenda a little bit here, but that's okay. I want to talk about this one. I found a great blog right after we spoke the other night. I read this blog, Marcus Sheridan, the Sales Lion. And I don't know if any of you follow Marcus, but I've been following him for a couple of years. Excuse me. And ever since I read his intro to Jay Baer's book, Utility. So Marcus was a pool salesman. And he was a pool salesman in the recession, but he was the only one that was making money. And here's how he did it. Basically, he started a blog, and he blogged constantly, and he took every question that he was ever asked about pools, and he blogged it. And
awesome.
that greatly improved his SEO. So when somebody did have the money to buy a pool, and they typed in, should I get a fiberglass pool? They landed on his site because he had a blog post called, should I get a fiberglass pool? That's what I'm saying. When you're writing a blog, you want to use the terms that your ideal clients are looking for. So he did that for every topic he could think of, every question he ever got. And now his main business now, he still has the pool business, but his main business now is teaching people how to do that. And so a lot of the stuff that I talk about in terms of your SEO and the types of things you should write about come from him. This blog post that he did the other day came in right after Tina and I talked about this topic. I got so many windows open, I'm having a hard time finding the right ones.
I think that's why my blog blew up earlier.
So he wrote one about the 5 types of blog topics that you should be writing about on your blog. Now, some of these I have done as pages on my blog, so they're more static, and I can have a button on my menu to take people right there. But if you put them in your blog or you put them on a static page, either way, you're going to get the SEO benefit of having it. So the 5 things, and I have done most of these, and I agree totally, this is where you should be going. The cost question, you should write a post that says how much it costs. Now, maybe it's not how much you charge to do a service, but maybe it's a more broad post about how much it costs to have a service like yours, and maybe it's different categories. So I've written one like that. How much does it cost to hire a social media agency, in case somebody should type that in? He suggests that you write ones about problems or issues, so almost negative reviews. So I have lots of blogs that I've written about different problems or different issues, and usually it's the solution to that issue. So, you can't do this on Facebook, here's how you fix it. Here's how you do this on Twitter, things like that. So answering those questions. The third one was comparisons, so this versus that. Hootsuite versus Buffer, Buffer versus Edgar, Edgar versus, I could write 50 blogs probably just mentioning a bunch of social media tools and comparing them back and forth. So writing all kinds of comparisons, writing reviews. So if you have products, writing product reviews and going through them honestly and telling people how it works and how it feels and what it looks like and how much it weighs and all that kind of stuff. Think of all the keyword rich content that you're writing there just by giving a review of a product that you sell. And then best. So the best of posts. Everybody loves a best of post. So I have one called the best social media consultants in Halifax. I haven't written any more best ones yet. Maybe I'll write one called the best chicken farmers on Blab. Or, there's all kinds of things you could do. The 5 best places to go hiking in Nova Scotia, the 5 best photo opportunities in Portugal, the 5 best, 10 best, whatever. That word best really attracts people. So those were his suggestions for content.
Yeah, those are great. And I was just thinking there's even websites that can do the work for you, because you can go check out what were the top 10 tweets of 2015 and write a blog post on, the best Twitter content of 2015 and best. And then you can just qualify that saying, okay, these posts got the most engagement because people want to know, well, how can I get more engagement? Well, try this.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote one at the end of the year, the best social media quotes of 2015.
Oh, cool.
I picked them. I don't know if they're the best or not, but they're, 10 quotes about social media and content that caught my eye over the last year. So I built that into a post.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways to find content. And I think finding content, finding ideas for content is what scares most people off from blogging on a regular basis. So what are your tips? How do you find content?
I don't have tips written down, but my bigger problem is how to act on all the content ideas I have. So I get ideas for blogs constantly, but it's because I'm always reading on what's going on in my industry. And then I'm like, oh, I should talk about that. For me, it's the thing that I feel really compelled to talk about for whatever reason. And it's always something connected to what my target market would probably also want to know. But as you were talking there, I got a whole bunch of blog ideas. So it's never a problem of ideas for me. For me, it's like keep an open mind to what is my take on this? And how can I blog about this so that it's just as interesting or it has a slightly different or unique perspective? But, I'm reading a social media book right now and I was thinking, oh, I could easily do like the top 10 quotes from this book, right? Just the ones that I thought were the 10 most surprising things in the book or something like that. People definitely love those titles, things that surprise them or things that are, made them angry or, things that help like make you feel some kind of emotion.
Yeah.
So I don't have a list, Anita, because I have the opposite problem. It's like, all right, I have all these ideas. What do I have time to blog about and what's going to be the most valuable thing? And sometimes I admit I get partway through a blog and I abandon it because it's a timely issue and I didn't get it out that day. And I think, this one disappeared down the noise tunnel on social media. So that can happen too.
So I haven't had an issue with coming up with topics for a long time. I did go through a very dry spell about 18 months ago. I probably, like the year 2013, I probably only blogged maybe 20 times all year when I'm attempting to do it weekly. So for me, that was a very long dry spell. I would go for 8 to 12 weeks without blogging at all. But now, as soon as I have a topic, I either put it right in my calendar, just anywhere, right in my calendar so that I don't forget about it. Or if I have the time to open up the back end of my WordPress, I'll put it in as a new post. I'll make a title, I'll put in my initial thoughts as a draft, and then just save that as a draft post. So when I do have time to go in and write, I'll just go in, I'll say, okay, what do I feel like writing about today? I've got these 5 posts sitting there that need to be done. And I'll pick whichever one I feel the most energy for today, and I write it, and I make the graphics, and I do everything, and I get it out. So that's one way. That's how I keep my list. Other people might keep a list in a to-do list on Trello or Evernote, or maybe even just a separate task list in your Google Calendar. I tried that. That didn't work for me. I kept forgetting to look at it. It was hidden, so I never looked at it. So putting them right into the back end of my blog is what helps me the most. But I also wanted to give a shout out to Linda Daly, who often joins us here. I don't think she's listening in today. I did invite her, but again, with the tabs, she has written some great articles on her blog about coming up with content ideas. So she writes from the perspective of creating an e-newsletter, but so much of what she writes about is transferable to blogging. So some people use them interchangeably. Some people write a blog and send it out as a newsletter. Some people write a newsletter, send it as a blog, vice versa. I have sort of a hybrid newsletter that is part of my blog, but has other stuff as well. It's all very similar in terms of coming up with the ideas to fill it up. So I just put in a link there to the first one I could find, all about content creation, and she's got links to all kinds of different blogs that she has written about coming up with ideas. So I'm looking at this post of hers, and there must be 30 links to 30 different blog posts about creating content for your blog. So I definitely recommend that you go check out that post and read some of her stuff. Follow her, sign up for her newsletter. She's got lots of ideas for you on coming up with content.
Great. And I was just thinking, Anita, because I don't struggle with what to write about, I probably give more thought for my blogging to how do I want to do this? How do I want to put this out there? Because I come from a writing background, I have to be very careful not to write in the way that I would write for myself, which would be very long and very detailed and probably boring to most people. But that's the stuff that I like to read. So I have to challenge myself on the how. How do I make this short, clear, engaging, conversational? Do I want to do a video with this? Do I want to do a slide share with this? What visuals am I going to use? How do I want to do those visuals and that sort of thing? So I want to add in, because I think this might help people, the slide deck that I did up for Blog Jam 2015 here in Halifax last year, because it has a whole bunch of ideas for the how to do it. Different things that you can include in your blogging strategy and your content development ideas. I love the question how. You know, I've answered the question like, what might I write about? Why am I doing this? But now, how do I want to do it? And that kind of excites me. So someone else might kind of be in that boat where they're looking for new ways to approach the same old topics, maybe.
Absolutely. Okay, we do have another question here that was posed by Sherry. I just copied it over. How often should you post a new blog? Is there a magic number per week, per month? So I usually recommend to people once a week is a good goal for most people. If you can do it once a month, that to me is the absolute minimum. If you can't commit to doing it once a month, then it's probably not going to do you a whole lot of good. But I like to aim for once a week because I think that's giving constant new content for Google. It's giving you constant new avenues to get people to your website to see what you're all about. And if you're only doing that once every 3 or 4 months, that's not very many times you're asking people to come to your website. So once a week is the goal that I give to most small businesses when they look at me with stars in their eyes and say, I can't possibly do once a week. You know, if you can do twice a month, that's better than once a month. Once a month is better than once every 2 months. So figure out what it is you can commit to, but I think once a week is a good place to aim for.
And my simple answer to that is you cannot blog too often. There are stats out there, and I don't have them at my fingertips, but for marketing bloggers, like e-commerce bloggers, the stats are like more than once a day, you know? So you cannot blog too often, especially because blogging has different challenges for all of us. So what Anita says is great because it has you set a specific goal, but my take on it is you cannot blog too often. So if you have something to blog about and you're off your blogging schedule, blog. You know, blog while the inspiration is there and if you have the time. And I think Sherry's looking to call it. Oops, did we lose her?
Who?
Sherry, were
Sherry?
You? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it. I didn't see that.
Oh, she is. Yeah. Something weird happened, but she's back.
Okay, because I couldn't see that at all. I didn't see it happen. So what I was going to say is, just while we're waiting for her to come in, you know, there are blogs out there that blog multiple times a day. You might know them as BuzzFeed or Upworthy or, you know, Mashable. We don't necessarily think of those as blogs. You might think of them more as a news site, But really, they're blogs, and they're putting stuff out multiple times a day because it works. But they also have huge teams of people writing for them. If you don't have a huge team of people writing for you, you do what you can. I agree with Tina that the more often you can do it, probably the better. Seth Godin writes a daily and sometimes more than once a day, but his blogs are also, I'm not even sure he hits the 300 word mark, but he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So,
his audience.
Yeah. Okay, Sherry.
Hi. I was calling in, but then Tina answered my question, so I canceled my call. But then you noticed, so I called back in.
All right, well, give us the question and answer.
Well, the other part of the question was, should you be doing it regularly? Not like a week, but a certain day, a certain time. Does there need to be consistency with when you post? But if I guess the answer that I heard for the question I didn't ask was that the more often you blog, the better. So it doesn't necessarily have to be consistent in that way.
No. I think with timing, you need to be more strategic with how you share that on social media. Mm-hmm. So you're hitting optimal times, or if strategically you're trying to hit down times on certain platforms, so you might get more readers. Some people use that strategy with their Facebook page. That's sort of where the timing component comes in. Just get it up on your blog whenever it's done, have it sitting there. Nowadays, you probably don't have a lot of RSS readers that are going to rush to your blog the second you post something, unless, I don't know, they're an old-fashioned fan of some big modern celebrity. I don't know, does that demographic even exist? But it's more about the timing of when you share it on social media, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It used to be about posting your blog at a certain point because everybody got your blog by email or through an RSS reader. But now you really want people to find your blog everywhere. You want it on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or wherever. So you have to post it multiple times at different times of the day in order to attract all those different people. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I repost. We haven't even talked about recycling your content. Mm-hmm. I repost all of my blogs multiple times for, if it's evergreen content, forever and ever, because the most popular blog post I have ever written is 3 years old, and it's still every month now, 3 years later, is consistently the biggest has the most traffic to my website. And it's 3 years old.
So are you reposting that? When you write the blog post, are you then going in and scheduling that for the next year?
No, I have a plugin on my blog that does all that.
Yeah, what's that?
So I don't have to schedule it. That plugin, the one I am using, is called Tweet Old Post or Evergreen Post Tweeter. I'm not sure what the new name is. One of those is the new name and one is the old name. So that's what I've been using. So we're going to say goodbye to Tina. I can stick around for a little bit, but bye, Tina. Thanks for your tips and insights on blogging today.
I'd love to see all you guys next week. Thanks for jumping in, Sherry, because now I'm not leaving Anita all alone.
Oh, well, I'll stay for a bit then.
All right. So thanks, Tina.